Hi, my name is Mark Stallard and welcome to Little Green Man. An article has been sent my way from westerninvestor.com about a seismic event that's going to happen in BC's economy. And I thought, immediately looking at the article, it was just a cursory glance. You could see that this was not a real news article at all. There was very little in it that was fact-based. But I think that this would have been this will be a good article to look at, disseminate a little bit, and maybe throw a few tips your way on how you can dig in and uncover what is facts, what is real news, and what is just propaganda. You might call it fake news. I don't like that term. It is completely deceiving. Let's call it what it is. It's just propaganda. It's information that isn't information that's meant to deceive you. So how can you tell real news from not real news, from propaganda? Well, the facts. You can just, things that are obviously true. The first thing I do when I look at an article is who published it, what's the background of the publication, do they have any special interest in that? So that's concerned. Not always just because a particular source has released something doesn't mean that it's all bad, but you've got to keep that into consideration. Who wrote it? The author is obviously will be coming from a particular viewpoint. So is that skewing the article at all? So you need to take that into account, because the chances are in propaganda they don't come clean with what their their biases. And then of course you go down to the facts. Do the facts match up with the real world? Can you find a primary source that can show, or a reliable source that can show these are incorrect? Can you find enough of them? Can you find more than one? And I don't just mean someone that's quoted an article, but maybe if they're quoting research, look for research, look for official figures that have been checked. Or have been double checked, and you can maybe even find the original source. So there are lots of ways to do it. First of all, I didn't really look into westerninvestor.com. You can go and look at that yourself. I didn't think it was necessary for the purpose of this. What I did find that there is it's obviously interested in making money. Don't really care too much about it. I didn't dig into that. Now, what I did dig into a little bit was the author of this article, and I didn't really dig into it at all. I just fibbing. He actually had a little blurb about himself at the end, which I will refer to later, so we can consider where is he coming from. Where is this article leading? And obviously it is right from the word go. You can see it's a bit of conservative, neoliberal propaganda. So the basic premise of this article, so BC's economy must brace for a seismic shift. It says new government reveals plan that will begin to topple province from its perch as Canada's leader in job growth and economic vitality. So you know exactly where it is. This is going some way to attack the current NDP party that is currently in power. So it starts. I'm going to read a couple of quotes. Start there, and then we'll move forward. So the election. Oh, by the way, this is in the source of this is the first source in the description. So check it out. You can read it first. It's not very long. It's not even a full page. Or it's a page and a half if you count the big massive picture on the front. And while you're there checking the source, you can follow and subscribe. You can become one of my 2 or 3 subscribers. That'd be great. Now I quote, so the election of the BC NDP BC Green Party coalition has uprooted perceptions of what it is to do business in what has been the strongest economy in the country. The article then goes on, skipping a couple of lines here. The new government wasted little time moving to topple BC from its perch as Canada's leader in job generation and economic vitality. Right there. Can you prove that's true? Yes, because it had already started to topple a couple of years ago. There's a reason that the NDP got in, and it wasn't because the Conservatives were doing a particularly good job. They had been in power for 45 years. They had laid a foundation of an economy in BC that was almost completely based on natural resources, oil and gas. As that oil and gas started to run low, it got too expensive. It started to get more and more expensive to pull it out. Oil companies left. They started to move out. They started to migrate. The economy crashed during the Conservative Party reign. Had nothing to do with the NDP. The NDP then got elected because the economy was in shambles. People were starting to hurt. And people wanted something different. So this is completely misleading. It was the strongest economy, yes, based on oil, which ran out, and it crashed during the Conservatives. So this is on its face. You can see right as it opens up. This is just a piece of neoliberal propaganda, because it's denying the facts of what actually happened in BC. Turning the page, another quote. Now the provincial government has pledged to use every tool available, in quotes there, to stop the $7.4 billion Trans Mountain Pipeline expansion, a project considered vital to Canada's economy and fully approved by the federal government. Full stop. A project considered by who? Doesn't say. The federal government has backed it. Yeah, and these are the same Conservatives that will say anything and absolutely everything to besmirch Justin Trudeau and his Liberal Party. But here, the government did something good, so they're going to be behind him. But because it benefits them, not because it wasn't particularly good. And is it really vital to Canada's economy? Well, you know what? If it's going to put Canada in a position where it's going to be a fragile economy based on natural resources, then it's a really bad place to be, particularly now when people are moving away from fossil fuels. This is just a silly statement to make. But we're saying that, talking about jobs. We're talking about some of the statistics. Now, he quotes some statistics. Oh, sorry, the author of this article is Frank O'Brien. Sorry, I didn't mean to omit his name. So Mr. O'Brien says that the pipeline, the Trans Mountain Pipeline, would have, and this is how bad the NDP are with the BC coalition, how they are, that would have created 37,000 direct and indirect jobs during operation, and it would provide, okay, talks about tax revenue, I'll get into that in a minute. Let's check those figures. Hey, you know what? I decided to do this article, to work through this article today, about 2.5 hours ago. And I spent half an hour just trying to just set up the camera and everything. Okay, so it took me about just over 2 hours to research this and debunk this article. That's how easy it is to get your facts. So here we go. So Forbes.com has to say, and we can't say that the Trans Mountain Pipeline would have created, how many jobs they would have created. He's claiming 37,000, and we'll pick something similar. The Keystone XL pipeline, we have facts for this. Now, Forbes has an article, again, all my sources are in the description, and they say that they were arguing that there would be 13,000 construction jobs, and then the estimates went up to 20,000, back down to 13,000 again, and that went down to 9,000 until, in reality, we were looking at maybe a couple of thousand as the pipeline started to progress. But the US State Department study actually projected that once it was done, permanent jobs would be 35. Again, source in the script, 35. So this 37,000 would have been maybe for a year or two. But and that 37,000 is complete garbage, because it's likely going to be more like a few thousand temporary jobs which would only be created just for the construction. Once it was constructed, 35 people, and those would just be maintenance and inspection. So it wouldn't have actually created any significant jobs at all. So right there, okay, yeah, that was one of the first sources I found. And now the big thing. Oh, this is hilarious. Now he's talking about taxes. Again, so he moves on then and says that the pipeline would have provided $5.7 billion per year in provincial tax revenue. Fantastic. Great taxes are good. You know from my previous articles that I'm not opposed to taxes because they go towards public services. I am, though, however, don't think this is a very big number at all. I think this is a very tiny number, and I'll explain to you in a minute. And for almost 20 years, It will deliver $23 billion in federal tax revenues. Again, sounds a lot of money, but I'll explain to you in a minute why that's complete garbage. And actually, I got some stats from the Government of Canada website that we will be looking at as well. So, so that's what they're saying. These are all estimates, and he's just saying numbers because that's what they hope maybe. Let's say for this. So, what's really a likely number? So, on the Canada government, the Government of Canada website, description down here, it's really reads. I mean, it kind of reads like I was kind of surprised just how propagandistic. That's not a word. I think I made that up. But it's just in itself, the government website is just a lot of propaganda, just a lot of. They had a marketing company write this because it doesn't really read like it's the pipelines and oil and fossil fuels are fantastic for the country and for the world. No, they're not. They're absolutely horrible for the country and for the world. But here we go. Let's look at how much taxes we would have got. So we actually got from pipelines. So the oil and gas sector, right? This gives you an idea. Oil and gas sector, not just pipelines, directly and indirectly employs. Okay, that's irrelevant because that's the oil and gas sector contributes nearly 11%. This is what really kicks you in the balls, because this is really BS. Contributes nearly 11% of Canada's GDP, that's gross domestic product, and pays on average more than $20 billion per year in taxes, royalties, and fees to governments. Okay, GDP. Now, it sounds good. 11% of Canada's GDP. Well, that must be really good for Canada, except Google it. GDP is just the amount, it's based on how much goods and services sold for in Canada. It's money that changed hands in Canada. Not how much money went to the Canadian government, not how much money went to you as a taxpayer or you as a hard worker. It's just one big corporation got lots and lots of money and gave lots and lots of money to another corporation, probably itself, a subsidiary perhaps, and that's considered part of the GDP. It's irrelevant to me and you, but it is very relevant to corporations and the rich people that own them, because they're the ones that have that money. We don't have it. So as a measure, an overall measure of how well a country's doing, fine. But it has no bearing at all on my life and your life. It has nothing to no bearing at all on how much benefit that is for the country at all. Now, let's look at the numbers because these are actual figures. So the $20 billion per year in taxes for the oil and gas sector. And they federally federally in those pipelines, and there's federally regulated pipelines, that's in there. That's repeated so ridiculously. It's almost, it seems like there's, whoever wrote this just had a bit of a tick. Every now and again it had to be federally regulated. It's just repeated through this entire website. It's actually crazy. It makes you wonder what's going on. But there's be about $159 billion worth of crude oil and petroleum products, natural gas, and natural gas liquids are piped down these lines for $20 billion per year. Get a calculator out, figure that out. $159 billion of oil that they're selling at the other end. That's how much they're selling it for at the other end. That go to the company and to the company alone and to the rich people that owns it. And they pay only $20 billion per year. That works out to be slightly over 12%. Now think about it. Here in Manitoba, I've said this before and I'm going to keep on saying it because this is important. Federal income tax, provincial income tax, sales tax, payroll taxes, and the various sales taxes, the consumption taxes, PST, GST, whatever you've got in your area. In Manitoba, that works out to be about 40% total. So I'm paying pretty damn close to 40% of my pay every week in taxes. They're paying 12%. And that was the best number that the Canadian government could come up with. Now, they go on to say, and this is really, really deceiving, is that, but there was also another $7 billion that went into transportation. Who the hell gets that $7 million? The transportation companies. You don't, I don't, the government doesn't. So what use is putting that in there? It has no real point being in that article at all. Check it out. It's laughable. It's obviously that the Canadian government really wants to. It's really just a neoliberal wing of. It's just a bunch of neoliberals that just want to keep these oil companies and the great grand corporations happy and ticking over. And it's kind of sad that we have to end up cleaning up the mess. Anyhow, that is for another day, I guess. Now, Mr. O'Brien is also concerned that BC are going to be hiking the corporate income tax rate to 12% per year. To 12%. Remember, me and you if you live in Manitoba, about 40% we pay. They're paying 12%. And that's the best number they can come up with. And they're going to increase the top personal income tax rate to 19%, which is kind of irrelevant, which is about what it is here in Manitoba, give or take. But 12%. Right now, it's 12% in Manitoba. Now, I've got another bit of news for you. That is the high end. That's not what they pay. That is a range. They provide a range up to 12%. Do you know how much? Let me tell you how much corporations right across Canada on average pay. Big corporations, oil, where they sell cars, whatever they do. Big corporations in Canada pay anything from 5% to nothing. Nothing to 5%. That's it. That's all they actually pay. So to be disgusted that it's going up to 12%, I think what's really disgusting is that's deceiving and deceptive. And again, I found all this out in a matter of a couple of hours, just researching this article, just getting the facts. Now, there you go. I mean, that's all you've got to do. Look at the numbers. Can you confirm them? No, I can't confirm them. I can actually confirm old data that he should have been aware of, and he wasn't. And you know what? He was aware of it. This guy's too smart to not be aware of it. So, was he being deliberately deceiving or not? Well, I'll let him decide that. So I'll let him rather convince you of that. Read the article. You can even email him. His email's not there. Probably a good thing. So, let's have a look. So, I'm going to read the last couple of lines here in the article, and we're going to find out what was his real motivation for writing this. Well, residential real estate, arguably the province's, that's BC's province's, most important financial engine, is already reacting to the economic earthquake. See? Look at the emotional language. Another sign that this is propaganda. Try and change the way you feel about it by using emotional language. BC's residential dollar volume has plunged nearly 20% from a year ago. Housing sales are down 17%, and price reductions are becoming common across Metro Vancouver. It is evidence of a loss of economic confidence that we believe is well-founded. And that's how he ends it. Is it well-founded? And he's concerned about real estate prices? Why would he be concerned about how much the land is worth? Well, let's read his bio. And this is what I mean when you say, consider who's writing this. Frank O'Brien, I'm reading this word for word, and I'll try not to embellish. Frank O'Brien is the editor of Western Canada's biggest commercial real estate newspaper, Western Investor. Now we know westerninvestor.com. I embellished, sorry. As well as contributing editor at West Coast Condominium, real estate contributor to business in Vancouver, and a regular media commentator on real estate investment. Well, if real estate investment goes away, he doesn't have a job, does he? So it's in his best interest for real estate to be high on everyone's mind, that rich people continue to buy land, continue to buy property. Well, there you go. That's how you can disseminate and tear apart and demolish someone's piece of propaganda. There it is. A few tips. Consider the source, consider the publisher, consider who's writing it. Look for emotional language. I didn't add that one at the beginning. Look for emotional language and look for facts and confirm the facts. You can pick your way through propaganda, and you can determine for yourself what is real news and what's propaganda. This is absolutely neoliberal, neoconservative propaganda. Now you've got some skills, and maybe you can start to use them. Little green man.